This is Right to Life Radio. And now, here's your host, John DeRoe.
It's the first Saturday of the new year, first Saturday of the month. And as we always do on our first Saturdays, we have Linda Talia from Right to Life here with us. Linda's our head sidewalk advocate. And we're here to talk about stories from the sidewalk, the things that Linda is seeing from the sidewalk. We at Right to Life, as many of you know, we have our outreach center ministry where we have a building right next door to Planned Parenthood from which Linda interacts with women and couples going into and out of Planned Parenthood to talk with them about the abortion decision and help them make the decision for life. So welcome again, Linda.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah. So I thought it would be cool. Yeah, I thought it would be cool. Well, Linda actually had the idea, so Linda thought it would be cool.
Let's get this straight.
Yeah. We thought
John
it would be
wants to be cool.
Yeah. We thought it would be a good idea to do a kind of 2023 summary and talk about some of the successes and highs and lows and interesting things that we learned, that Linda learned out on the sidewalk, the success stories of people she was able to interact with who decided to keep their baby. So the floor is yours. What sort of stuff did you learn over 2023? What were some of the highlights? What were some of the lowlights? You know, the floor is yours.
Well, most people are just listening and not watching the podcast, but I'm not trying to copy you with having my laptop open. I actually I have a running list of moms that have come into the building and at least at that point chosen life. We're not following all of them, but we are following quite a few. Yeah, and so
it's always kind of you and I have maybe talked about this a little bit, but. We don't want to have the attitude of like, oh yeah, we had 12 saves, and then we wash our hands of it. We try to stay in touch with these people, follow up with them, and if they decided to stay in touch with us, that's great.
Yes,
but not everyone does necessarily. So, but
you
have maintained touch with a lot of these people,
right? Yeah. And so with that, you brought up a very good point, because I was like, what did I learn? Well, one of the biggest things I've learned is that it's not personal if they don't want to stay in touch.
Yeah,
like I used to think. Well, why don't they want to?
Why don't they like me?
We had this long conversation. Did I say something? Why don't they want to tell me all about what's going on?
Yeah.
So that would be a big one that I've learned. And the other thing is that it was a long time ago when I worked with Monica, where we had like 8 people who'd chosen life, and we were following maybe 1 or 2, and then COVID started, and we had this list, and she goes, "Okay, you call the people." Who you think, who we talked to, and let's find out what happened.
Yeah.
I was like, why me? I don't want to know. So I did, and one of the moms that I called, I really actually thought she'd had an abortion. I just didn't think. We'd sat there for like 2 or 3 hours talking and talking and talking. And I thought, no, she's not one of them. And I called her, and she was like, how do you guys always know when I need help? And then I was like, I don't know. And I didn't really want to know. And after a little bit, she said, I just want you to know that I'm 6 months along and we're having our first boy.
Oh, wonderful.
So I was like, okay. So so we don't always know.
Yeah.
Like this person hadn't chosen to keep in touch. I hadn't kept in touch.
That's even, half the purpose of our outreach center ministry. And, every month we have you on and we talk about the successes. Half the point of our outreach center ministry is for successes that we're probably never going to hear about or never even going to know happened. A lot of why we're doing this is because of Planned Parenthood's own, testimony
admission,
that their no-show rates increase significantly.
Which seems weird to believe because so many people go in.
Well, sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. And I think it is a reality that, and I've heard anecdotally of it from other pro-lifers that, I saw the people out there and it made me sit and think, and I decided not to go in. So even if they don't ever interact with us.
And I've heard that too. But it's still.
Yeah.
When you're doing a job or going to school or doing a sport, you want to see.
Yeah.
You want to see the results.
Yeah, you want to feel the reinforcement that what you're doing is making a difference.
And you might need that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I want to see that I get an A.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, tell us a little bit then. Okay, with all of those caveats, that we don't 100. If we don't follow up with someone or they don't follow up with us the whole time, we don't 100% know all their choices.
Okay.
Over the course of this year, the number of people who at least told you initially they were not going to have an abortion. I mean, it was a pretty extraordinarily large number over the course
15.
of this year. 15 different people.
15.
Yeah, which is
but
great.
I wanted to follow up on what I was telling you about the mom where I learned you just don't know, and then
sure.
they might have. Well, anyway, big circle with that is that about 6 or 8 months ago, she actually asked me to write a letter of recommendation for her to go to Fresno State.
Oh, wow.
And she went back to school. So we actually met up a couple weeks ago because she's getting ready to move to Texas. And her son is going to turn 4.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to be actually at least passively involved in this person's life who I initially did not think was going to choose life. And it's, she will always say, thank you, thank God. And which is also interesting because she's Muslim. And so that was my first opportunity to talk to somebody who has lived and been and experienced a whole different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we have a lot in common in the way we think.
Sure.
So that was really, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And it was really great to talk to her. And I always try to reassure her and say, you know what? You just gave me an opportunity to pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what really we want to do. So we went for a walk and, promised to keep in touch and probably will, through Instagram or something. But it was really neat. So she's going to school. She got all A's in all of her classes. And she's studying some mathematical something or other. Oh, geez. So she's smarter than me. But anyway, so that was years ago, obviously, 4 years ago. And this year, the most recent big deal is we had one of the moms actually give birth right before Christmas. And this has been a really great story because it was, again, one of those situations where I just went out on a limb and said, hey,
are you
come
pregnant?
over here.
What's going on? Yeah.
And she will flat say, I'm standing over there, I'm upset, and you gave me a chance to get out of where I was. And so she also had an opportunity we actually did an in-person baby shower for her, and she had an opportunity to tell her whole story about how she ended up choosing life and really how she started to really believe in God. I mean, she asked she asked God to give her some signs. Yeah. And they were kind of funny signs. She was like, one of them was
she got a job offer the same day she asked for a sign. Yeah.
Because I was asking her what's holding you back? And she's like, I need a job. I'm like, okay, well, people get jobs.
Let's go get one. Yeah. It's not that hard. Yeah.
And then one of them was so that's actually what happened. So she goes home and that day she gets an email with a job offer.
Right.
So she's like, okay. And then one of the other signs was, show me a pink elephant. What? How? Yeah. So she opened her Facebook and somehow there was a pink elephant.
Someone had a picture of a pink elephant.
Yeah. So she was like, okay, cool. I got this. And so she got to actually probably feel a little more empowered by telling other people what happened. And then several months later, she and her partner, they needed to get some volunteer hours for whatever he was doing. So they came out and they're standing on the sidewalk holding signs. And a mom came in that was, she came up and she was considering an abortion. And we went into the building and they actually had an opportunity to talk to her. Yeah. And so they basically said, look, there's not been one single thing that we've needed that they haven't done. If Linda says she's going to do it, she'll do it and she'll do it twice. And she means what she says and she says what she means. And it will be okay. This sucks right now. You feel terrible and it's hard and whatever, but it'll be okay. And so that person also chose life. But she also had an opportunity, firsthand, to talk to someone. And by then, this mom was visibly pregnant. And so, and actually, I think they came out again. And someone didn't choose life. And I was really upset. And I was like, I'm sorry, you don't need to come out and see that. And she was like, no, now I know how much it means. Yeah. So that's important too. Yeah. So it was just, it's been a good opportunity to really understand and know people better.
Yeah. Well, and to hopefully, with some of these people, beyond just the simple question of, is this baby going to live? to almost like kind of set their life on a different sort of trajectory. You know,
Right.
I mean, and it's hard to sort of think about, you know, all the kind of roads less traveled or whatever. But I mean, when you just the kinds of, you know, the kinds of mental health harms that are associated with abortion, the kind of regret that could be associated with it, and all the things we've seen through our Rachel's Vineyard ministry of like that there's so much that maybe was avoided and so many positive things that were maybe encouraged between here's the one mom going to school, here's this other mom maybe reconsidering a relationship with God. Like it's a lot of really good things that are coming out of just this one random interaction with a lady on the sidewalk who's got some flowers in her hands.
I don't think we can even talk about this without talking about Aleda either, who also, this has been, I think her baby's going to be 2. And I met her, similar, like, I don't know what to do, circumstances, chose life. And I've been really involved with her life. In fact, she works for me at my property management business, and she's now working on getting her real estate license. And then there are other people, other volunteers who are part of our organization who hire her to do different things. So now she not only has had an opportunity to choose life, be a mother, and she'll flat tell you, I cannot believe how great this is. Like, I love being a mom. Yeah. And we were all worried about her partner because he was kind of like, whatever you want to do is fine with me. He watches the baby while she comes to work. And he's great. Like, she doesn't have to call him and tell him, well, you know, make sure you put some diapers on or whatever. He's got it all done. So now we've watched, you know,
him maturing a bit.
mature. He's got a full-time job. She's working part-time. She's working towards getting her real estate license and, you know, meeting new people and understanding.
They're getting married, right?
They want to get married. They were talking about the finances.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so, and then I've had an opportunity just to be involved and watch this person who, she really is exceptional in different ways. And it's been fun to watch. And her big thing is, I want to learn how to get out of poverty.
Yeah.
So it's my opinion that if she would have chosen abortion, she might not have had the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is she going to still be in the same life trajectory that she was in that sort of was leading to, you know, the abortion in the first place? And we have talked about that. You know, why does Right to Life, you know, for high school students, why do we promote, like, you know, chastity talks or things like that? Obviously there's value in that in and of itself, but even from a purely secular perspective, the idea of having a sort of right ordering to life and family and relationships of, you know, basically of if you go to high school, get married before you have a child, your odds of being poor in America basically disintegrate into nothing. And not that that's, you know, the end all be all, but to sort of help people more generally get on the right path in life.
Yes.
Kind of, you know.
Well, and I don't think we could even have this, you know, summary year-end thing without talking about the volunteers. Yeah. I cannot tell you how many times a mom has called and said, I need this, I need that. And I can literally reach out to a volunteer and say, what do you think? And like, how much do you need? What do you need? How can I help? I want to be involved. And that's been amazing too, to see that I'm not by myself. Right. You know, I'm not just standing there passing out pamphlets and hoping someone says yes and
and we've got a nice little, very dedicated mini army of
I'd say we have about 30 volunteers who come really out on a very regular basis.
Right. When we return, we want to talk a little bit about some positive experiences with people who don't necessarily appreciate what we do. Okay. That is next on Right to Life Radio.
That'll be fun.
We're back with Right to Life Radio. We are doing our every first Saturday of the month Stories from the Sidewalk with Linda Talia, who works with us here at Right to Life of Central California, doing our sidewalk ministry outside of Planned Parenthood. Now, we've been talking about some of the great, wonderful successes we've had over the course of 2023 at the Outreach Center, a lot of the great success stories of moms who've chosen life. And you had, though, I like hearing your little vignettes of life on the sidewalk. You had an interesting experience with some folks who were not as appreciative of our work at Right to Life. So I'll give you the floor to describe, a positive experience that came out of that.
Okay.
So go for it.
Well, you're talking about one specific situation, but I can tell you daily, I've saved 10 people flip me off.
Sure.
And they're the same ones.
Oh, really?
Like,
oh,
we'll
you
see
have
the
some
car,
regulars?
Yeah. We'll see the car coming in to Sean and say 1, 2,
2, 3.
There it goes.
Hey, there we go. Yeah.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Yeah. Well, it is the Tower District. It's not exactly the most right-wing, not the most conservative neighborhood of Fresno. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I said it on the last segment, how many moms we had that. Did you say?
Well, what's the total number? I think you. What was the total number again?
15.
It was like 15 over the course of this year. Yeah, which is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got that going, but let's talk about some weirdness.
The counter protesters.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are regulars in the area, and there is a regular running couple.
These two guys who seem to be a
couple.
couple. They're running together.
Runners. I don't know if they're a couple, but
they're running together.
Yeah.
And, okay. And they have
a
dog
Husky
with them. Yeah.
That they dyed pink.
How much of this Husky's hair is dyed pink?
The whole Husky's pink.
That doesn't seem like
I have 2 dogs. I don't know
seem
how
like a good way to treat an animal, honestly. But anyway, let's continue.
Also, I can't imagine how much work that took
to dye.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing?
The whole thing's pink. It's not his face or its tail. It's the whole thing.
The whole
is
dog.
Pink.
Huh. Okay. Well, anyway, people make choices. All right. Continue.
Yeah. Anyway, so one guy frequently goes by, but and sometimes it's 2. So this time it was 2, and they were flipping me off and like yelling, "You guys are wrong, and what are you doing? You're wasting your time, and this is me." Just the normal stuff.
So they jog by, they flip you the bird, they say something.
But they're on the other side of the street, so I guess they feel safe.
Sorry, I'm trying to check on the camera if I accidentally flipped the bird on the camera for the YouTube.
I'm used
I think
to it.
my hand was out of the frame. I was not
looking at it
meaning
going,
to.
"Wait."
I was not meaning to flip you off. I was like,
We're
they
on the
were
same
flipping
side.
the bird. Yes, yeah. Anyway, I don't think the YouTube camera caught that.
Used to
All
it.
right, there we go.
But anyway, so they're running and they're just saying stuff, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm not usually supposed to say anything, but I was like, dude, you don't even know my name.
Yeah.
Like, what is up?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, it doesn't matter because you, and I'm like, it does matter. You don't really know why I'm here. You don't know why these other people are here. You don't know what we're doing. You are passing judgment.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
I thought you were all about
Inclusivity, tolerance, what happened to any of those
like,
virtues?
Where do I fit in? And they're like, it doesn't matter because you just, you're against women. I said, no, I'm a woman.
Yeah, I am one.
I am.
More than you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I go running too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it kind of was whatever. And they
left.
They ran off. And so anyway, last week, some guy pulls up in the driveway leaving Planned Parenthood and he says, he starts talking and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not usually good. And he goes, hey, I want to apologize.
And it's one of the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him at first and I didn't really even think about it. I just figured it was going to happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, I want to apologize. I was wrong. And I was like, what? And he was like, you're right.
Yeah.
I just got caught up. I shouldn't have said that stuff. I don't need to do that. And you're right. You guys have a right to do this. So sorry. And I just said, that's pretty... Anybody
really
who can
nice
say they're
of him,
sorry is, okay in my book.
Yeah.
That takes a big man to say I'm sorry.
Well, and I do think it's a thing of when we actually describe what we are doing, and I've found this both with our Obria clinic and with the sidewalk ministry, it's hard to get that, even if you are pro-choice, it's hard to get that upset. Like, what are you doing? You're just offering the opportunity for someone to talk about it. Yeah, that's true.
I just had to get to the part of you don't know what I'm doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But when you actually sit down and talk with, we talk with women who are considering abortion and we just say, do you want to talk it out? Do you want some help with resources? If you want to keep your baby, do you want resources for help? Or, in the case of our clinic, do you just need medical care? And it's hard to really argue with that too much. If you actually care about choice, if you actually view someone freely making choices as important, and that's why, it's sort of, this is the stat I keep using all the time, that there's new research out that 70% of abortions are against the preference of the woman having the abortion. So basically, she's saying, if I were in a better financial position, this position with this position, I would keep the baby. And that ranges all the way from I don't have money to I'm being actively coerced.
I mean, I've seen it all.
Yeah, and that's I think the
I
huge
think
lie
the
of
stats
the
are
approach.
higher.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, and I think that it belies the whole notion of choice being what's animating the abortion movement. This isn't much of a choice for most of these women. A lot of these women,
it's a natural, instinctual thing for a woman to give birth.
Yeah.
We can talk about the natural, instinctual other things and say, well, that's how it goes, but we can't talk about, I don't get it. Like we're pushing against the wrong.
Against nature, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Linda, thank you all so much. And thank you all for listening, for supporting what we do at Right to Life, supporting Linda's work. You can go to rtlcc.org to learn more about it and sign up for our newsletter. You can learn more about stories of success from Linda and blog posts she has. Thank you so much, Linda, for being on, as
Thank
always.
you.
All right. We'll be back with our buddy Jonathan Keller next on Right to Life Radio. Back with Right to Life Radio. All right. Well, we're going from the hopeful and optimistic to the man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Yep. And we're going to talk about transhumanism, the concept of transhumanism. And we're also going to talk about the ideas of things like gene editing. Basically, it's all these efforts at doing eugenics without saying that you're doing eugenics. And here to join me is ironically my white Anglo-Saxon Protestant friend, Jonathan Keller, who I think, in spite of being a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, I don't think Jonathan would say that that is the height of human evolution.
I would agree. Yes.
I think lots of humans are fine. That does seem to be what a lot of eugenics folks tended to land on as the most enlightened and developed is white Anglo-Saxon, culturally Protestant. Anyway, so let's talk about this. Now, this topic, you might be asking, where do they come up with this? Well, a little bit of it is we have to blame producer Colton for being on top of this.
That's right.
And he mentioned to me, hey, maybe you guys should do a show about TESCREAL. And I said, TESCREAL?
TESCREAL who?
TESCREAL? What the heck does that mean? And Colton explained to us that this is an acronym that relates to a whole bunch of overlapping philosophies: transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism.
Okay, then.
And that's a big mouthful. A lot of what this is attempting to utilize modern technologies, including artificial intelligence systems, which I will admit I'm not. You're more tech.
I'm more interested in
Professor,
AI type of stuff.
Yeah, you and Producer Colton are far more up to date on techie things than I am. I sort of feel like if the maximum extent of our use of AI is to produce funny works of art with, Joe Biden dancing to techno music, then that's fine.
That's good.
Which producer Colton has shared with me before. It's somewhat disturbing, but mostly pretty funny.
Yes.
But it seems like the applications that people are thinking about or starting to utilize for which people are starting to utilize AI, artificial intelligence systems, is getting more and more terrifying. And TESCREAL seems to be one of these things. So the idea is to use various kinds of artificial intelligence systems, including what's called, I guess, general intelligence,
General
AIs,
artificial
artificial intelligence systems, to sort of look at what's going on with the human body, look at ways of prolonging human life by basically examining the human body, and being able to sort of reverse engineer the stuff that is wrong with the human body in order to create effective antidotes, medicines, potions, whatever, to massively increase human life expectancy. There's one of the buzzwords in this long acronym of TESCREAL, and again, it stands for transhuman. I don't even know what all these words mean. Transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism. Effective altruism is one of these terms. And effective altruism is a kind of buzzword that's thrown around by a lot of super left-wing, ultra gazillionaire types in regards to charitable giving. And I guess the idea with effective altruism is basically, well, let's use science, use technology, use statistics to focus on doing the most we can for humanity and human good. It's this sort of attempt to kind of talk about charitable giving absent a concrete moral order, I feel like, or to pretend like we're not going to focus on objective moral goods or some sense of objective morality. We're going to just focus on the facts and the science and the data. And so a lot of effective altruism seems to be looking towards, okay, how do we extend life expectancies? That seems to be a kind of utilitarian calculus that they're using to boil down, well, what's best, the best way to use our dollars is just to prevent people from dying.
Right.
And to prevent people from dying. And I guess if that means, a couple of cheap mosquito nets to prevent people from dying of malaria, okay, yeah, that's
sure.
a lot of bang for your buck. But if it's a dystopian nightmare in which we are trying to create scientific towers of Babel with some idea that human beings will never die, and it comes at the expense of horrific experiments on, say, human embryos or human cloning or things like that, that is stuff I am not crazy about.
I do think, John, that is a good analogy for it. That, I mean, in the case of the Tower of Babel, for those of you who are a few years out from Sunday school, I mean, basically it was that all the people of the earth gathered together and they said, hey, we're going to build this huge tower to heaven. But it wasn't just that they were like the, early BC Donald Trumps of their day, that they wanted a huge tower.
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest, most magnificent tower Babel has ever seen.
It was really like, you go and read it, and you read some of the commentary on it. It was essentially they were wanting to displace God and become, their own conception of God. We're going to become our own masters. And I mean, what if building a tower was the prehistoric version of that? Yeah, the idea of completely transforming your body, your consciousness, and trying to,
basically to not die.
Yeah.
The idea of we're going to try to attain immortality. Yeah. Now, a lot of this feels to me like eugenics by a different name. So Planned Parenthood and its affiliates not its affiliates, didn't have affiliates at the time. The early history of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger was very much tied in with the American eugenics movement. She was friends with a lot of these people. They were heavily involved. They had all these ideas that people who were in various ways superior should be the ones who are reproducing and reproducing and reproducing, and that different kinds of groups who were not so great should try to start limiting their reproduction. And I don't think it was an accident that Margaret Sanger happened to be marketing her birth control products to the Irish, African Americans, basically racial groups that she did not like, and that's that coincidentally the American eugenics movement thought of as not so great.
Just as it happens.
Just happens. Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances?
Yeah, it seems very, very convenient. And there's always been, I think the pro-abortion movement had some openly eugenics arguments attached to it until World War II. And World War II, understandably, put a big damper on the whole eugenics movement, as everyone sort of saw the horrors of what Nazi Germany and its eugenics proposals did. So, and Justice Gorsuch talks about this a lot in his book, The Future of Assisted Suicide and Euthanasia, where the pro-abortion movement and the pro-physician-assisted suicide movement began to get away from any kind of eugenics-sounding arguments, and they started to focus on arguments relating to autonomy. Okay, that we are promoting abortion for the sake of female bodily autonomy. We're promoting physician-assisted suicide for the sake of the autonomy of the person who, they should be able to decide when they leave this world. And so, but nonetheless, there's always this sort of hidden, fundamentally, you still, even if you want to talk about autonomy arguments, you still kind of have to answer some argument about whether certain human beings are better or worse or more important or less important than others. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, you're still talking about actively killing certain groups of people and deciding whether it's okay to kill certain groups of people. We see this a lot in American abortion debates in kind of a sort of quiet way, where we say, oh, well, without question, if a child has a Down syndrome diagnosis, they should be aborted. Well, why? Why is that necessarily? Why do we have this sort of attitude? If we're going, we often try to tie, people on the pro-abortion side seem to try to tie the value of human life and the legitimacy of abortion to some kind of mental capacity that the unborn child allegedly lacks that valuable human beings possess. Well, at that point, then you're throwing human equality kind of out the window. You're saying some human beings are not equal to others. Some human beings have more value. Some human beings have less. Now, where this is starting to become a little bit more immediately present is with this thing called CRISPR technologies. All right.
And CRISPR itself is an acronym that I need to now look up.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure actually what CRISPR stands
CRISPR
for.
Therapeutics.
It's CRISPR Therapeutics.
Yeah, I thought it was an acronym. Now I'm
maybe
having
it
to
is.
look this
Anyway,
up here and see.
So CRISPR, CRISPR.
Clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats.
Okay. So what CRISPR is basically a method of gene editing, GENE editing, in order to eliminate supposed imperfections in new human organisms. Okay. Now, here's a write-up from it that was in Politico. Excuse me, guys. Jeez. That was in Politico back in 2016. They're talking about CRISPR, and they say, the technology holds promise to cure diseases like cystic fibrosis or sickle cell and even revive extinct species. But critics fear it could also be harnessed to craft designer babies who are more intelligent, beautiful, or athletic, and to edit embryonic cells to change an inherited trait forever. Those dystopian prospects have aligned U.S. groups long at odds. The anti-abortion Susan B. Anthony List, Family Research Council, and the Center for Bioethics and Culture oppose gene editing in embryos. So do abortion rights groups like Our Bodies Ourselves and the leadership of the Pro-Choice Alliance for Responsible Research, albeit for very different reasons. Now, they're sort of talking about this idea that you can now I think from the pro-life side of it, there's going to be this is going to mandate an even greater appetite for test tube babies. Yes, for in vitro fertilization.
If any of you have seen the movie Gattaca, it was actually a pretty good movie, kind of depicting some of the just the horrors of what happens when you get to parents who are able to suddenly choose. I mean, literally, like the opening scene of the movie is a mom and dad that are in like a gene clinic, and they're like, all right, we have these 4 wonderful little embryos here, and we've screened them all for these types of things, and which ones would you like? And they basically go through and they get to pick, the parents get to pick precisely the traits that they want, not just like eye color and hair color, but I don't want a child that has any slight imperfections of mental deficiencies or personality traits that I don't like.
Right. Now, when we return, we'll dig a little bit more into this and sort of the ideology behind it and sort of try to walk through it and sort of this commodification of human beings, which we've talked about a lot on the show. That's next on Right to Life Radio. Back with Right to Life Radio. This is the sci-fi turned reality episode of Right to Life Radio here today. Basically, we're talking about man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Jonathan Keller from California Family Council and I. We're talking about new ideas for gene editing called CRISPR technologies, as well as other ideas regarding transhumanism. Now, the chief idea behind CRISPR gene editing technologies it's this idea of being able to use modern technology to eliminate certain kinds of undesirable genes from newly created human organisms. And basically, it's going to take a lot of dead embryos to develop and make these sort of, quote, designer babies, as well as basically this horrific commodification of human beings. And you know, I know we've talked about this a lot on the show, but I think this is the slope you know how slippery slope arguments that people always say, oh, that's a slippery slope argument. It's a logical fallacy, and slippery slopes are like constantly happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the meme that I see more and more, and it's a little annoying, but it's kind of a little true that I need new conspiracy theories because all my old ones came true.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and how like these ideas of gene edit, it's like, didn't we just see The Matrix and we were all horrified at the one scene where they have fields of human beings used to power machines, or, you know, and it's like, yeah, why are we trying to recreate AI? Why are we trying to recreate the bad guys from The Matrix and from the Terminator movie? Like, why are we trying to make an AI
we're just going to get up to the line, John. We're not actually going to do it. We just got to get close.
Yeah, these were like sober warnings against human progress, and it seems as though a lot of these people have viewed it as an invitation. Like, oh, what a great idea! Why don't I try to accomplish this terrifying technological nightmare?
Supposed to be a dystopian warning, not a goal to strive for.
Yes, exactly. And this is one of the things we talk about. You know, why do we oppose at Right to Life and the pro-life movement more generally? Why do we oppose in vitro fertilization? Well, for one, it's because you're inevitably creating far more embryos than can possibly be born, and so you have a high wastage rate of living human organisms who are either destroyed or thrown into a freezer. And this is at the order of millions of children per year. If anything, it's even more horrifying in some ways than legal abortion, just as far as the raw numbers. But, you know, people will sort of try to justify it, but then we'll say, well, in vitro's okay. Why? Well, because I know someone who had kids through in vitro or something like that. But you know, human cloning, that's too far. Gene editing, that's too far. Why? Why and how is it too far? And I think that's the difference.
What is the limiting principle?
Yeah, what is the limiting principle? And I think that's the difference between the slippery slope argument is deemed to be a logical fallacy. That, you know, well, just because A happened doesn't necessarily mean B or C is going to happen. But if A happened because you crossed a certain limiting principle, there's nothing to stop B, C, D, or Z, anything else that's beyond that limiting principle from happening once you've crossed the limiting principle. And the limiting principle we've crossed is that creating human beings through an artificial process outside of the natural reproductive process of a man. I apologize for clapping my hands together. There's a 30 Rock line. There's a line from the TV show 30 Rock where Liz. Anyway, my wife Holly will know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I just love this is how John is going to explain the birds and the bees. All right, kids.
All right, kids.
And there it is.
All right, and there it is. As you cross the line from we are taking human reproduction out of its normal circumstance of an act of love between two persons. What is the limiting principle to stop? What's the limiting principle to stop the idea of this dystopian future where we're creating designer babies and gene editing and eliminating, but we're going to eliminate disease. This is effective altruism. If we can stop people from ever suffering, it's going to lead to, this is going to happen on the backs of a whole lot of murdered embryos is what I'm afraid this is what's going to happen. We'll dig into more of this stuff maybe in future episodes. That'll do it for us at Right to Life Radio. We will see you next time on Power Talk.